Hey there, YouTube. Happy Valentine's Day. Well, I'd like to talk about one of the greatest romance comedies to come out this year so far. Deadpool. Yes, the Deadpool movie came out. I saw it opening day on Friday. It is great. It's a wonderful movie. I would highly recommend watching it. It is an action comedy with a light touch of the romance. So, it's funnier than Guardians of the Galaxy. It's more violent than Kick-Ass. And I think it's probably one of the most accurate renditions of a comic book character on a movie screen since we first saw the origin of Iron Man. So, yeah, it's great. Keep in mind, however, that it is R-rated and it earns this hard R rating. It's the first comic book movie I've seen with full frontal nudity, for one thing. So, it's a great movie if you're a fan of the comic books and of the character, or even this genre in general, and you don't really care about Deadpool particularly. But keep in mind, it is R-rated, so don't complain to me if you brought your 6-year-old in. Okay, so, as you know, when I attended Comic-Con last year, I did so as press. As such, that means, apparently, I officially have press credentials. And I was invited to do some interviews with a couple of the guys who worked on the movie Deadpool. Specifically, Greg Lasalle, who did the facial performance for Colossus, and Stefan Kapicic. That's how he told me his name was supposed to be pronounced. Stefan Kapicic, who was the voice of Deadpool. So I'm gonna be posting this in a follow-up video, which will be, you know, those interviews, like get a little bit into the head of some of the people behind Colossus, because Colossus was really good in this movie. Again, just as this is one of the most comic-accurate Deadpools, this is also the most comic-accurate Colossus we've seen. Considering that Colossus has been in about 3 movies before this, and this is only now the one that really actually feels like the character, that's something to say. Okay, so I'm here with Greg Lasalle. He's going to be playing Colossus in the Deadpool movie, which is coming out this Friday. So, Mr. Lasalle, can you tell me about the role?
Well, Colossus is a superhero that's all chrome and 8 feet tall, and he's completely computer generated in this movie. So we used a new technology to transfer my facial performance onto the actual character for the film.
So similar to what they did with like Gollum and Caesar and stuff.
It's actually a newer version of that technology. With that is putting markers on the face or getting animator reference, which is a low, the data set that comes from that is rather low. It's 250 data points. The new system is 7,000 data points, so it's actually capturing the wrinkles and the subtlety of all the performance and transferring that right onto the computer generated character.
Oh, so it's as close as you can possibly get to actually turning him into an 8-foot tall metal man.
And Colossus is the first hero character in a movie that's actually using this new technology.
That is brilliant. My co-workers. Hello, Eli.
Hey.
Good to be with us.
Greg, nice to meet you.
Joining me is Eli here, my buddy. You've seen him appear in some of my other videos. He's here to, you know, he's here to cameo in my video and leech off my success. That's just kidding. So, okay. So, what do you think?
Okay, so you know, what as a kid, were you into Marvel?
No, I actually wasn't into comics as much as I was into acting and performing more than anything in specific.
See, that's what I always wondered, because I always wonder, like for example, like in TV shows, like Big Bang Theory, like it's huge. I always wonder if those actors are actually into those things and they know what they're talking about. Like, you know what I mean? Because sometimes they're so good at acting.
That's what you want, right?
Yeah. So that's why.
Well, there's also a lot of research that goes into it once you're given the role. Like in this case, I wasn't all that familiar. I've been working with Tim Miller for quite a few years, off and on, but I didn't really know that much about Deadpool or Colossus.
Okay.
So once he said, okay, you're going to do this, then I started researching it, but not actually researching, so reading the comics, but looking into his past, like how did Colossus, you know, what was his family like, and you know, his history is quite extensive with his family farming, his sister, and so on and so forth.
Was the role based off of Colossus's previous appearances in the X-Men movies?
No, not at all.
So we're getting a fresh new Colossus
Well,
here.
well, I think it's new in the film world, but I think it's a really great translation from the comic page.
That's always good.
Tim is a fan, is a huge fan of comics, and he wanted to be true to the original comics, and I think that that's what he's pulled off here.
Alright, so did you get any set time, or were you just in like a motion capturing booth for your face?
No, we did this all after the fact. In terms of all the principal photography was done last spring, and because computer-generated characters can end up costing a lot of money, Tim wanted to have an edit of the film together to find out exactly what he was going to say and where his face was going to be shown, that sort of stuff. So we didn't actually start filming Colossus until September, very late in the filmmaking process.
Well, it's either that or like spend $1 million animating the facial expressions of a scene that's going to get edited out.
Right, exactly.
So what are some other really notable roles that you've done recently?
Well, I'm fairly new at this, so the last thing that you might have seen in theaters was I played some talking statues in Night at the Museum,
Yes.
which came out last Christmas, and I just
Yeah,
finished
you played Caesar, right?
the statue that's yelling that Pompeii is going to explode. That was kind of our test bed for this new technology. That was actually the first time we invented a new technology for transferring the performance so that it brings over all the subtlety of it. And we just finished it and we wanted to test it out, so we used it in the museum. But Colossus is the first hero character. I mean, you haven't seen it yet, I guess, but Colossus's face is the full screen.
Yeah, I see.
And so it's really important to make sure that all that performance is in there.
I saw the preview scene they posted on the internet yesterday, where he gets punched by that little girl and goes flying like 150 feet.
Yeah.
So Colossus is he's like 3 people, right? Like you're his face, and then there's
Actually,
another-
4.
4.
Or more. Yeah, Tim Miller understands this technology a lot, so he figured he could take the best of what a bunch of different people had to offer and Frankenstein all those together. So the look of Colossus is actually a stuntman from Vancouver with some slight modifications done to his face. The voice is Stefan from Croatia. There was a stuntman to do the fight scenes in motion capture, and then Andre actually stood in on set and his big platform shoes, which you may have seen some pictures of online. So it's a conglomeration of a bunch of people.
I'm gonna see if I can. I have not seen those giant platform shoes. I'm gonna see if I can find one so I can post a picture of that, because that sounds hilarious.
Well, because when you're filming, you want the actors to actually look in the right place, so they had to get him to be 8 feet tall. So he's literally standing on his like 1 foot.
It's better to actually have something to look at. I heard that's been a thing ever since the Who Framed Roger Rabbit movies. Like they shot the entire scene with physical dummies for the cartoons, and then shot them again. Like, remember where you were looking where we had the dummies?
All kinds of devices are used. They have laser pointers, of tennis balls on sticks. In filming Gravity, we actually built around the facial capture system a wall of the LED screens like you see at rock concerts or sporting events, and they rendered the film from the actor's perspective, so that George Clooney and Sandra Bullock could actually look around and see the space shuttle or other actors they were looking at to make sure that the eye lines worked correctly.
Cool. I really like that. That was a good one.
Yeah.
So what kind of stuff do they use the facial capture for like when they're wearing the suits?
Anytime, there's lots of scenes where they're spinning in space quite rapidly, or there's just things that you couldn't make a camera and a human body do those things. So a lot of it's computer generated, so they recreated their faces.
I think the only place you could possibly set that up is in the Vomit Comet plane, and there's not exactly a lot of room in there.
And you only get a few seconds to actually film that.
You wanted to say
I was really excited when I saw that Colossus made the Deadpool movie, because for me Colossus was a very I don't know if you know the history. You recently, but Colossus is like a very underrated X-Men mutant. He's so powerful. You know what I mean? And he was he was in a few X-Men movies. Like, he was the main character from the second on, But the origins of Colossus are he's from Russia. He's like a refugee, and then but in the movies they kind of make him like American. So in this movie, would you say he's more American, or are they going? No. Okay, so they're doing his roots.
Stay true to his roots.
Right.
Yep. Right. And I think in that also his behaviors, he's really gentle. I mean, he's it's like a lot of superheroes. It's something happens to them in puberty, and they get these superpowers. And for him, he retains everything he was as a human being before that, except he's big, chrome, and he's really strong.
Yeah, because I remember in the cartoons in the 90s, he always had a thick accent, and then like in the movies, he was played by a American guy. He's a great guy, I met him.
Nope.
But
this is played by Stefan, who has a phenomenal Russian
Okay, all right. That's why I like.
Speaking Russian, not from pretending to have an accent.
I remember in the 90s cartoon, they actually had a scene where Colossus was employed by a demolition company to take out the support beams of a building to help collapse it.
Yeah.
And then after he took his pay and left, all the other people who normally would work on the demolition were upset at the company for hiring just one mutant to do all their jobs. And and Colossus suddenly had you're facing the whole immigrants taking jobs allegory in the 90s cartoon.
We don't get that political in Deadpool. Mostly stay on the funny side of it.
Yeah, I would understand if there's a place for that.
Yeah.
If he was in I was just surprised when Colossus was in the proper X-Men movies that he's just the big punchy guy. He didn't really go into that, which is
Yeah, well, that's again, Tim Miller really loves these worlds, and he wanted to tell it authentically. So Colossus, his goal in Deadpool is to convince Ryan to use his powers for good, basically. Stop seeking revenge on people who might have hurt you or done something to you. It's like, this is the way it is now. You have these superpowers, let's use them for something good.
Yeah, that's always what I liked about Colossus. Like even his first entrance in the cartoon, his first episode, he stopped Jubilee from getting attacked in the supermarket.
Yeah. And that's the way it is in this film too. He doesn't want to fight. He'll only fight when it's to protect somebody else or something that he has to do. He can't really stand the sight of blood. Yeah.
well. Imagine that when your skin can turn to metal, you're just not. No one's capable of making you spill your own blood.
Well, not his blood, but again, it's carrying through the human traits of him into the character, because you think about it, okay, it's just someone who becomes strong and has these superpowers. It doesn't change who or what he actually is. So Tim was adamant that that's what comes through in the character. So there's these little mini speeches that Colossus makes to Deadpool to try to instill upon him that he could be a good person.
Yeah. Well, I'd make a comment about being the voice on his shoulder, except if you tried to stand on it, I'm pretty sure even Deadpool's regenerative powers wouldn't be able to.
No, but it's a very good analogy. It's almost like having the devil on one side and the angel on the other, right? And Colossus is sort of like the angel guy. Deadpool really doesn't need a devil on his shoulder. He's got all that built in.
So he's like Jiminy Cricket, except if Jiminy Cricket was one of the Ents from Lord of the Rings. Off the top of my head, that was just the biggest thing I could think of. So what do you have anything else?
I was just gonna say, well, like I said, with DC and Marvel becoming huge, like I know you must feel good about being part of that. You know what I mean?
It's awesome because as being one of the inventors of the technology, it's fun to see it used to bring these characters off the page in a way that's believable and realistic, and it's just really fun to be involved in.
Yeah, to talk about the previous movies, the last time we saw Colossus was in X-Men Days of Future Past, where he got ripped in half by 2 Sentinel robots.
Yeah.
So,
He stays intact.
Ironically, the R-rated movie is actually features less graphic violence than.
I tend to agree with you. I mean, it has its R rating for a number of reasons. It's not just the violence and the blood, but it's not gratuitous or anything. It's really everything that you see is necessary for that little thing, and just to make it realistic. That's all.
Yeah, I mean, action comedy.
And the last time that we saw Deadpool was in the Wolverine.
But I think this is.
But you guys just
it's a very different.
Okay, all right.
Very different.
Yeah, I was wondering if it was continuous from that or okay.
No.
So we're just retconning that out of existence like everyone wanted to, right? Yeah, no more Baraka pool. no katanas implanted into the forearm, so it'll make it impossible to make your
this is taking what's on the original page and putting it in film. Don't worry about the other stuff.
That is really good to know. I know there's probably some people out there that are remembering that and now sighing a huge relief.
I hope so. I mean, I think you need to do that in order to just let this movie go and enjoy it. Don't worry about what happened in the past. This is the way to do it.
Cool. Is it in any kind of rough continuity with the other X-Men movies?
No.
No? It's completely standalone?
Yep.
That's cool.
So like in the movie, is Deadpool considered an X-Men?
Not yet.
Okay, all right.
This is kind of an origin story. This is
All right.
about, you know, him turning into how he becomes Deadpool, what his life was like before that.
Yeah, this is gonna be great. Deadpool's always been a good character. Like in the games, in the X-Men Legends games, you need to like beat the game and then you'll unlock Deadpool. So like he's always been a special character.
Yeah.
There was also that Deadpool video game last year. They actually re-released it for the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One. It was originally just a 360 and PS3 game, and then when a couple months ago they re-released it for the upgraded consoles.
Yeah.
I'm guessing because this movie's coming out.
Probably. And we've done a bunch of that actually working with Tim Miller and his studio Blur. We've redone cinematics for things like Halo and stuff for basically dressing the characters in the game.
That is awesome.
And one more thing. So like, how do you like like X-Men? The comics started in the '60s, and the cartoons came out in the '90s. Then they had the X-Men Evolution in the early 2000s. How do you feel that it's all coming back?
Well, I think it's just nice to see the tools that exist today to tell it on the screen in such a way that it looks believable and real. To me, that's the best part of all of this. I mean, you can get immersed in these things and not have to worry about how something is done or whether it looks right or looks wrong. It all just looks believable.
That's actually, yeah, it is great to have live action technology.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember in the '90s what superhero movies were like. You look back on them, like so many of them were so cheesy, like especially like some of the straight to video stuff. Like remember? Did you ever see Steel?
No.
Yeah, it was a DC superhero movie that starred Shaquille O'Neal as a really lesser known superhero. Like Steel is supposed to kind of be like a DC version of Iron Man. Like his gimmick is that he has a big hammer and he has like a super suit that allows him to fly and stuff. And in that movie, it was very clearly a rubber costume.
Yeah. But at the time, I mean, that's what could be done, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if you put it into perspective at the time, yeah, you kind of have to let those things go and just enjoy the film. Now the whole thing is that we have the technology to make it 100% believable as you're watching it. So you just get drawn into the story and you just stay there.
Yeah, that's probably the greatest boon of this decade.
Yep.
Well, thank you so much for talking to us. It's
Oh,
been a
you're welcome.
pleasure.
It was nice meeting you.
You too.